All right. All right, cool. So let me go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Matthew Gonzalez. I'm one of the career counselors at the Career Development Center. And yeah, I'm just really excited to present to all of you today on resume writing and also cover letter writing. So we're going to start off talking about resume building. So in the chat, what are common concerns or questions you have regarding resume, or what do you hope to get out of the workshop? And I'm going to read your comments out loud, just for our viewers to see. All right. So, what are common concerns or questions you might have regarding this topic? And I'll give you all a minute if you want to write something down. How to make your resume stand out to people hiring? Perfect. Okay, cool. We're definitely going over that. How do you make it stand out? Okay. Okay, more interesting cover letter since I do not have a lot of practice in it. All right, awesome. I'm definitely gonna break down for you, for everyone here, what a cover letter looks like and what's included in a cover letter, and I'm gonna go through an example too. How to gear resumes to different opportunities, like a resume for our specific interests versus interests in other fields. All right, cool. So we are going to go over kind of like the technique to tailoring your resume, no matter what you're applying for, as long as you know how to tailor your keywords, specifically to job descriptions in your field, right? That's going to help a lot. I'm in business admin, and they told me my resume has too much colors and to make it basic because hiring managers use AI to sort through resume. Is this correct? So we are going to talk about the applicant tracking system. So we call it ATS for short, but it is an HR tool that most companies use nowadays so that they can screen through your resume and find the keywords on there that matches the job description, which in turn might give them a high percentage match so you could go to the next round. And this is why no matter what major or field you're applying to, tailoring the keywords are going to matter the most. Okay. And yeah, we're going to talk more about that later on. Okay. So thanks for bringing that up. But yeah, we'll go over ATS in a bit more. Cool. Any other things before we dive into it? All right. So let's go ahead and go into it. Um, let's see. Pause share. Let me just make sure. This is recording. All right, cool. It is recording. Good. All right, so let's move forward. I'm gonna test everyone's knowledge real quick. So in the chat, you could either put the letter T or F, okay? True or false for the following statement. All right, in a resume, it is okay to place your high school education. What do y'all think, chat? So what do y'all think? T, 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 T. Okay, so I'm getting a bunch of T so far. Anyone says otherwise? T depends. Okay. All right. All right. Anyone else? All right, cool. All right, so let me go to the next slide. So overall, this is false, and let me explain why. So if you're a freshman, which I believe no one is in here since I asked earlier, so there's no freshmen in here. But if you're a freshman and you just came straight from high school, and let's say you don't really have any recent experiences that you might have done in your first year so far, then yeah, it's okay to have high school information because you have to work with what you have, right? However, going into your sophomore year, junior, senior year, employers they're gonna expect for you to have accumulate more recent and more relevant experiences while you're in college. Okay, whether that's involvement in clubs, whether that's volunteering, doing community service, interning, right, doing a part-time job on or off campus, right? And so you want to accumulate more recent and relevant stuff. So after your first year, I wouldn't include high school information. All right. Okay, next one. All right, T or F in the chat. Volunteer work or community service is not as important as paid experience in your resume. What do y'all think? So we're getting all Fs now. All right, so all Fs, like about 7, 8 Fs now. Okay, anyone else? All right, everyone answered that pretty fast. Something maybe I might have said in the last slide. But all right, so false, everyone got this correct. So first thing I want to say is experience is experience. No matter what kind of experience you have, you're still gaining what we call transferable skills. And what are transferable skills? They're just skills that could transfer from one position to another. So in the chat, what are kind of broad transferable skills you could think of? So let's see what y'all think. So in the chat, what are transferable skills? Again, really broad skills that could transfer from one position to another. What comes to mind? Teamwork, yes, 100%. Okay, teamwork. Communication, that's what I was waiting on. All right, communication, yes. What are other broad transferable skills? So teamwork, communications are huge ones. All right. So I'll go ahead and name a few: organization, leadership, yeah, tech skills. Okay. And so yeah, those are all transferable skills. Okay. And those are the skills employers are looking for too. All right. So so a lot of you have accumulated a lot of transferable skills just being in college. All right. So let's go move to the next one. All right, T or F. School projects are equally valuable as paid experiences in your resume. So this one gets a little bit tricky. What do y'all think? School projects, are they equally as valuable? All right, T probably. T, okay. All right, T. All right, F, okay. Anyone else? All right, this one kind of gets tricky, okay? Um, so this one does depend. However, it is going to be true if the project is, you know, within the field. Like if you want to become a researcher and you've done a lot of laboratory work in the area that you're interested in doing research in, then yes, of course, right? That if you that kind of project would apply. Okay. Um, and one thing I will mention too, it doesn't just have to be school projects. It could be like personal projects. Let's say that um let's say you want to be a social media marketer. Okay, that's the area you want to get a job in, and maybe you're an influencer and you've generated about like thousands of followers on your social media platforms, and maybe you could talk about what you did to market yourself so that you could achieve that. You see, that could be a personal project. Or let's say you're into tech, maybe you build your own computer or some sort of like technology, right? You could mention that. Okay. And so as long as it's relevant. So if it's things that's not really like a big project or not connected at all to your field, then I wouldn't include it. All right. So it's true if it's relevant. Cool. All right. Great job, everyone. And so now let's go ahead and dive into resume writing more. But first, I want to ask all of you in the chat, you know, what do you think the main purpose of a resume is? What do y'all think? What is the main purpose of a resume? To select proper candidates. Okay, yeah, for employers, right? To sell yourself to employers, some summary of accomplishments. Okay, what else? And just so you know, no one ever gets this wrong. All of those are accurate. Okay, so let me show you how I worded it. So resume, it's not an application, but rather it's a marketing piece. What do I mean by that? It's not an application, meaning it shouldn't include every single thing you've done your whole entire life, but rather you want to highlight the specific qualifications and experiences that are most relevant for the position. All right. Because at the end of the day, it's going to advertise what you have to offer to an employer. All right. All right, cool. So now my next question to everyone is, how much time do you think employers take to review a resume at the initial cut? How much time? What do y'all think? So we got 5 minutes on the chat. What else? 5 to 10 minutes. Okay. All right. Anyone else? And again, this is the initial cut. So 5 minutes, 1 to 2 minutes. All right. Anyone want to take another guess? All right. So, okay. So overall, they could spend between 15 to 30 seconds reviewing your resume at the initial cut. Yeah, let me explain why. Okay, it'll make a lot of sense. Um, So for one job, there could be hundreds or even thousands of applicants, right? Can you imagine spending even 5 minutes for hundreds of applicant resumes, reviewing that? That's going to take forever. So they've become very skilled at skimming your resume. They go through it really fast, and they're just keeping an eye out for keywords and qualifications that they're looking for that's on the job description. Okay, so they're really good at going through it really fast. Okay. And so yeah, so with that said, one of the first things I want to talk about is how visually appealing your resume looks. Because if you have a lot of great, you've done a lot of great work, involvement, clubs, internships, jobs, right, whatever it might be. But if your resume looks chaotic, like visually, they might not even spend a second looking at it. Okay, so what I'm gonna go over right now is, you might want to take notes, but it's gonna be a bit important for you. And so font style, you want to use the most common font, Times New Roman, Arial, Calibri or Caliber, I always forget what it's called. But yeah, you know what I'm talking about. And you want to go anywhere between 10 to 12 point font. Anywhere below 10 is too small, and things above 12 is kind of like you're yelling at them, right? So if you have like a font like that's 40, that could be really like yelling at them. And so if you want to make your name and section headers larger in font, that's fine. You could do like instead of 12, 14 or possibly 16, but I wouldn't go anywhere above that. Okay. Now margins. What that refers to is kind of and I think everyone might know what margins are, but it's pretty much the borders right here, right? When it comes to margins, you want to make sure it's equally distributed. What do I mean by that? So you don't want to do like an inch up here, all of a sudden 0.75 here, and then zero point 0.5 here. Okay, you could go anywhere between 0.5 to 1 inch margins. So you should do 0.5 all around, 0.75 all around, or all 1 inch all around. Okay, so you want to be consistent with the margins. Now, white space, what that refers to is the amount of black text you have compared to the white background. It's very tiny, but this is a very narrow looking resume because there's a limited amount of black text with too much white space. So I've seen resumes from alumni, and they've been interviewing, or not interviewing, they've been applying for jobs for a while, and they haven't received an interview. And I look at the resume, and it's just looking very narrow, and so they've learned to elaborate on it, and eventually they finally started getting interviews. So you really want to think about how you're maximizing your space on your resume. Okay. And just so you all know, if ever you want to have your resume review, we do have drop-in advising throughout the whole summer. And for those of you who are graduating or have or you know or have graduated, just know you have 1 year free services upon graduation to keep accessing all of our services. Okay, so take advantage of us. All right, now back to this slide. Length of a resume. How long do you think a resume can be? What have you heard? So in the chat, how many pages? All right, so one page. I'm getting a lot of one page. Okay. Anyone else? All right, cool. So overall, we do encourage a page. However, let's say you have so much relevant content. Let's say you're a marketing major and you've been part of the marketing association. On top of that, you're also doing a marketing internship. You're doing volunteer work for a marketing organization. You've done a lot of marketing projects, right? Let's say you just have a ton of relevant marketing stuff. You shouldn't be deleting relevant information. In that case, it's okay to go onto a second page. All right. However, if you're like one line, like you at least want to get halfway to the second page or just fill it up. But let's say you're one line over into the second page. Based on what you just learned, what can you adjust and what can you adjust it to drop it back down to one full page? Font, good. All right, font size, yes. What can you adjust it to? The font size. 10. All right, cool, cool, cool. Yes, it would be 10. Yeah, and 10, yeah, 10.5 works too. Yeah, so yes, you would go lower. All right, now what else can you adjust apart from font? Let's see who could get it. Margins, yes. So what can you adjust the margins to? if you're trying to bring it down, okay? 0.5 exactly. I love it. Thanks everyone. Everyone's paying attention, so that's good. So yes, if you adjust the margins to 0.5 and do 10-point font all around, you'll be surprised how much you could bring it back down to a page. Okay. And again, maybe you don't need to do those and you're already halfway into the second page. That's fine. All right, now consistency is key. This is really important. Um, this is the way to not make your resume look chaotic. Okay, I've seen resumes where the dates are in the far right, all of a sudden it's in the middle, and then all of a sudden it's on the left. Okay, that's not gonna look good for employers. So you want to be consistent in your formatting. This so like for example, if you're bolding your section headers, make sure every single section header is bolded. Okay, stuff like that. Okay. All right, cool. So that's the a few things for the look of a resume. Now, what we're gonna dive into are basic components of your resume. So I'm gonna go in the order that a resume might typically be formatted in. And so we're gonna go over each of these areas. And if you have, and again, any questions at any point about the topic we're presenting on, feel free to put in the chat and I will answer it, okay? All right, so let's go over the first area, name and contact information. All right, so this one's pretty straightforward, right? You want to start your resume with your name and contact info. So you have your name. When it comes to the address, is whatever you're comfortable with putting on there. I put the full address for mine. Some people just include the city, state, and zip code. If, you know, some folks they prefer not to have it at all. So whatever you feel comfortable with. Okay. Now for your phone number, make sure you have a professional voicemail. What does that mean? I might say something like, "Hi, you reached Matthew Gonzalez. I'm sorry I couldn't come to the phone. Please leave your name and number, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can." All right. So you want to leave instructions for them. And at the same time, you want to mention your name so that if it's an employer, they know they contacted or they called the right person. Okay. Um, all right, so make sure your email, you have a professional email. All I mean by that is that your email should include your first and last name. Um, you know, some of us might have like, you know, emails that we still have since high school, and we have kind of more creative, funny email names. And so you want to avoid that for this, okay? And make sure to have a professional email, okay? You could use your student email for now, but keep in mind you will lose access to that, I believe, after a year from graduating. So you might just create like a Gmail or another email account. Okay, cool. So that's the contact information. All right, objective statement. What is this? So an objective statement provides focus for your resume. And this appears at the very top of your resume underneath your contact info. And it kind of lets them know the position you're applying for. At the same time, you could highlight a skill or two that is most valuable for the job. This way they could see it at the very top. I would mention again the most important skills at the top. Okay. So if you're applying for an internship, it's okay to express an eagerness to grow. So here we have seeking an internship position with Boeing that offers growth and advancement in the field of aerospace engineering. All right. So you mentioned the position type, which is an internship, and the company name. So you should mention the company name, Boeing. And for them, they express an eagerness to grow. Now, if you're applying for an actual job, like a paid job, part-time, full-time, you know, you want to mention one or two skills that are really valuable for the job. So this is what I have here. I put to obtain an entry-level position as an accountant for Wells Fargo, where I can contribute my strong communication and organizational abilities to the growth of the company. Okay. So yeah, so think about a skill or two that you feel is most important. All right, cool. So now let's talk about the education section. So when it comes to the education, this is an area where I notice a lot of people might make a good amount of mistakes. So first and foremost, some people might put CSULB or CSU Long Beach or Long Beach State. You want to put the formal name of the institution, which is California State University, comma Long Beach. Okay. So yeah, spell out the full name of the institution. Another common mistake people do is they put instead of expected graduation, they put a time frame of when they started to current. So what employers care about is when they could hire you full time. So you want to put your actual expected graduation date, the month and year that you're gonna graduate. Okay. So you're finishing in the fall, you should put December and the year. If you're finishing in the spring, it would be May and the year. Summer would, I believe, is August and the year. Okay, so there you have it. Um, excuse me. Even for internships, they want to see how long they could keep you for instead of how long you're at school for. Okay. Now, another common mistake they have people do is put major psychology. You want to put the actual degree that you're gonna get, like the bachelor's degree. So bachelor's of arts in or bachelor's of science in, right? You don't have to put candidate for, you don't have to do that. You can just put bachelor's of arts in psychology. All right, GPA. What do y'all think a minimum GPA is to include in your resume? So in the chat, what do y'all think? So we got 3, okay. Anyone else? 3, okay, 3.5, okay. Yeah, you should include a minor. Thanks for bringing that up. So I would put Bachelor's of Arts in Psychology, and underneath that, you could put minor in, Child and Family Studies. All right, cool. So good. 3. So yes, when it comes to GPA, the only time you might have to include a GPA is when you're applying for an internship, because internships, especially if you're trying to receive academic credit for it, they typically have a GPA requirement, which at minimum will be around like a 3.0. Okay. However, for full-time jobs, they don't have a GPA requirement, so you don't have to include it. However, if your GPA is pretty high and you want to showcase it, then that's completely fine. I would include it. And one thing I do want to mention is everything on a resume comes down to personal preference, whatever you feel comfortable with including. Like for me personally, if my GPA is like a 3.4 or above, I would include it. Okay. So whatever you feel comfortable having or not have it at all. Okay. All right, cool. How many of you here in the chat, you could just raise your hand. How many of you came from a community college? All right, so we got 1, 2, okay. All right, Coco, just so two around like I think 2 of you. So yeah, so if you came, all right, so you got 3. All right, so if you came from a community college, if you want to include an associate's degree, you can. Okay, if it's relevant to the field. One thing I will say is that for some folks, who want to keep the resume down to a page and they're getting a bachelor's degree, let's say in psychology, right? Even though they got an associate's in psychology, they don't have to include it. But it's up to you. Okay, whatever you feel comfortable with. But I'm just letting you know that's another way to limit the page if you're trying to shorten things. All right, cool. All right, we made it to the experience. So this is probably one of the most important areas for employers. So you definitely want to take notes here. I'm going to teach you how to structure your experience section and how to write effective bullet points. No matter what field you're in, this is the format we're going to go over. It's going to be very helpful. So first and foremost, when it comes to writing your experiences, you're typically going to have the name of the company, okay, comma, the city and state right next to it. And then you have like, let's say the time frame on the right. And then maybe you'll have your job title underneath the name of the company. Okay. So you're gonna have all of those components. That's a standard. Okay. Now underneath that, you want to have bullet points on what you've done or accomplished. It's really important to use bullets. Some people do not use bullet points, but it's harder on the eyes to capture what they're skimming for. So if you use bullet points, they'll know right away those are disqualifications and skills that you're highlighting. Okay, so use bullet points. Now, so we talked about transferable skills earlier. You do want to quantify your accomplishments as much as possible within those bullet points. So for example, led a team of 4, on group project, or increased sales by 15%, or presented to a class of 200 students, you see? So you want to quantify wherever you see fit. Now, I've been asked a lot when it comes to experience section, like, hey Matt, What if I have relevant experience and I have other experiences that aren't so relevant, but I don't really want to take those off because it's going to show a gap of employment. Okay. And I'm like, yeah, that's a very, very valid question to ask. And so what I would say is have two separate experience sections. One that might say relevant experience, or in another section that says additional or other experience. Okay. So for the relevant experience section, you can have everything I mentioned, company name, city, state, time frame, title, and what you've done in bullet points. Now for the additional experience section, you're gonna have everything I said except for bullet points. You're not gonna be outlining the details of what you did. It's more like you're creating a list, employment history list. That way they know you were active and staying busy within certain time frames. Okay. All right. Cool. All right. So that was a lot. Now the most important piece. I'm gonna talk to you about how to write effective bullet points. Okay. So let's start here. Okay. So when you're writing a bullet point, you want to start each bullet with a strong action verb. Okay. So you see in the before example, it says responsibilities include a customer service. Responsibilities could sound very passive. It's like you had to do it. Okay. So you want to replace that with a stronger action verb. So here we put provided excellent customer service. Okay. So once you start with a strong action verb, the next piece is you want to show versus tell. Most people on their resumes, they end up telling. They're just listing things without really backing it up. Okay, so you want to be able to support what you're saying, and there are different ways to show. One way to show is by doing, and so you can show by doing. So, for example, provide excellent customer service by effectively addressing the questions and concerns of customers in a friendly and respectful manner. You could even end it there. Okay. You could also show by demonstrating a result or an achievement. So provide excellent customer service, and we take the second half of this, which resulted in Employee of the Month award 3 consecutive times. All right. So you could show by doing and show by result/achievement. You could have even said provide excellent customer service, which resulted in a 15% increase in sales. You see? All right, cool. So I'm going to show you more examples. Help high school students with classes. So what are action verbs that you feel like you could include here? So in the chat, what are action verbs instead of help? And help isn't a bad one. All right, good. Guide. All right, cool. Anything else? So guide. Yes. Assist. That's perfect. So guide, assist, direct. You guys are so good. I love it. All right. So anyone else? All right, this is cool. All right, so let me break it down. So instead of help high school students with classes, we put tutored, and then we quantify 4 to 7 high school students each semester in AP courses to increase academic performance and achieve academic goals. Okay, so this is showing you another way to show. This is showing by purpose. Okay, so we talk about show by doing, show by result/achievement, and now show by purpose. So the person tutored the students in order to help increase academic performance. You see? Okay, so I'm giving you a bunch of different tools in your toolkit so that you know how to approach your bullet points, in different ways. Okay, all right, cool. So let's go another example. So helped at a conference I attended. So in the chat, instead of action verbs, let me know what they could add to show. Like what kind of details can they include? So helped at a conference I attended. What conference? Cool. Yes. That counts. What conference? What was the conference focus on? Yes. Like the topic. Like what was the main? Yeah, I love that. So that's good. hmm Anything else? How many people you helped? Oh, that's perfect. That's really good. How many people you helped? Okay. All right, cool. All right, cool. So that how did they help? Yes, perfect. I love it. So that's all really good. So let me show you you know what I did? So I put facilitated workshops on interviewing skills and professional etiquette as part of a local conference, creating an engaging educational experience for participants. Okay, boom. Right, sounds a lot better. Okay, and so yeah, so when you elaborate more on your bullet points, it's gonna help them get to know certain skills and qualifications that you know you might have been cutting them short on. Okay, so with reading this, for me to present a professional etiquette, right? That might say a lot about how I would be as a colleague, you see? And so it's just kind of market yourself a lot better. All right. All right, cool. So there you have it. So those are ways to write effective bullet points, right? No matter what major you're in the arts, in in engineering, STEM, right, wherever, right? As long as you tailor the keywords and write effective bullet points, that's what's going to matter the most. Now, for the keywords, the action verbs that we're talking about, like what you see on the screen where we have facilitated, make sure that the words you're using are the exact keywords or skills listed on the job description. Okay, so you want to use their language so that you could make it match for the applicant tracking system. Okay, so we're going to get to that soon. All right, so but real quick, I want to touch on additional sections. And so for a lot of the additional sections, it'll kind of help employers get to know you a bit more. And so, you know, for example, being involved in clubs, volunteer work, membership, they might automatically associate or assume that you have good communication skills, you're a team player. They might even assume you're a leader, And so those usually speak positive things to employers. For computer skills, as well as languages that you speak, you do want to mention the level of proficiency. So I might say I'm well versed in Microsoft Word and PowerPoint, intermediate or moderate in Excel, basic knowledge of SPSS or AutoCAD, stuff like that. So mention the level. Same thing for languages. Like, you know, um, one thing I will say is your resume is an accurate representation what you currently have. So again, your resume is an accurate representation of what you currently have. Let's say you're starting a job, right? And you're already including bullet points you haven't done, but you know you're gonna do, you shouldn't do that. So you should only include what you've done up to this point, and it's an accurate representation. And so in my undergrad, so I'm Filipino, and I included fluent in Tagalog, which is the Filipino language. In an interview, I was asked to pretend to communicate on the phone with like Filipino parents and give them directions to the location we were at for the interview, and I struggled so much. Okay, so ever since then I've learned I'm conversational in Tagalog. Okay, and so it's an accurate representation what you have. Okay, now honors and awards. If you made it to the dean's list, the president's list, right? If you graduated with honors like magna cum laude, summa cum laude, okay, those are things that you should include in your resume. It's gonna look very nice. All right. Um, projects. So project sections, relevant courses. It shows them the knowledge you have in your classes and how you apply them. When it comes to your relevant courses, make sure to include the actual name of the class. You don't want to put the abbreviated name and number. Like for example, PSY 310. So that's intermediate statistics for psychology majors. So you don't want to put PSY 310. You want to put intermediate statistics. You see, because different institutions might have different designations. So you want to make sure to spell out the title. Okay. Now, when it comes to projects, all you need to include is the name of the project. I would bold the name of the project and bullet points of what you've done. So you don't have to put timeframes if you don't want to. You can if you want. But the biggest thing is you'll use bullet points and you'll structure the same exact way you would an experience section. Okay. Anyone here like a veteran or served before? Let me pull up you can raise your hand and gives me a thumbs up. All right, so for those that you might know who served in the military or currently serving right now, if in case you have done so in the past, um, just make sure that the language is a lot of military folks, they might use the military jargon or like wording. Make sure it's the language on your resume, it's kind of put into like civilian terminology. Okay, so that's the only main thing I wanted to bring up there. Okay, but it sounds really cool. I've seen military resumes and it sounds really nice. But again, for everyone else, employers, they might not understand certain things. Um, Let me make sure I didn't miss anything on here. I believe I hit on everything. All right, cool, cool. So there you have it. So now let's talk about, and again, if anyone has questions in the chat, put it on there and I will answer it. Okay. So I'm gonna keep moving forward if I don't see any questions. All right. So overall, how y'all feel about this resume? Overall, pretty good. All right. Not so good. What do y'all think in the chat? Good. Okay. All right. Anyone else? All right. Cool, cool, cool. All right. And for those of you saying good, what makes you say that based on what you've learned? I love this. I have such an interactive group. Like this is really cool. It's consistent. Yes, perfect. Yep. If you notice, all the section headers are consistently not only bolded, but they're all caps, and the subheaders are all bolded, but not all caps. So that helps differentiate the sections really well and the subcategories. Okay. You'll notice too, all of the dates are on the far aligned, perfectly aligned on the right, right, and so forth. White to black text proportion, yes, this is what a filled up resume should look like. You don't want to have bullets that have like 3 to 5 lines. Okay, that could be too much black text. All right, so if you're showing versus telling, it's gonna go to like a second line, but some could be within the line. um the bold words to separate sections, yes, I love that, exactly. So that's what I was just talking about, and I'm glad you caught that. But yeah, it helps again, I like to use the word differentiate everything just visually for employers, making it easy for them to capture what they're looking for. All right, cool. And when you look at the bullet points, it's using strong action verbs like demonstrate, address, managed, greeted, operated, handled, assembled. You see, strong action oriented words. All right. I do want to read one sample real quick, which is rapidly freeze the prepared ice cream mixture by using liquid nitrogen and scooping the ice cream into the cup and adding desired toppings to ensure customer satisfaction. Um, and so something as simple as making ice cream, you could make it sound really good. So you just have to make sure, just sit there, think about it, and do your best to put it together. And again, have the Career Center review your resume for additional feedback. Okay. And I'll go over drop-in hours in a bit. It's gonna look a little different in the summer. And so just hang in there with me. I do have a slide on how to access that. Okay. All right. So that's that. Yeah, cool. All right, what some of you have been waiting for, the applicant tracking system. So for the ATS, so here's the job description, right? What I would recommend so that you could hit be a high percentage match. So let me explain this again for people who came in late. What the ATS is, it's a HR tool. And so when you submit your resume online, most likely it's gonna go through an applicant tracking system. And the system, it's gonna highlight all the keywords on your resume, like schedule, organize, coordinate, analyze, report, plan. Okay, so all of those are transferable skills. You have all of those skills. I would assume that you gain a lot of this through college, and so it's gonna highlight all the keywords and it's gonna give employers a percentage match to help them narrow down the candidate pool. Okay, because again, there could be hundreds or thousands of applicants. With an ATS, it makes it convenient for them to only go through the ones that have the most amount of qualifications. All right. Okay, cool. So what I recommend is highlight the keywords in a job description, grab those keywords, change it into an action verb, and sprinkle it all over your resume. I would start each bullet using an action verb, but you could also sprinkle it throughout the bullet point too. Okay. All right, cool. And that's pretty much it. Now, there are certain things that might not be compatible with the applicant tracking system. For people in the arts, in the graphic design, within the creative field, okay? I would recommend having two versions of your resume. One creative version, and you can have colors, whatever you'd like to make your unique brand on there to highlight that. However, you still want the plain and simple one that you just saw. And just one thing I will mention too, we do have a lot of resume samples on our website, our Career Development Center website. So if you go to our student page, click on resume and cover letter, we do have resume and cover letter samples. Okay. Um, so yeah, create a plain and simple one. Now for the creative resume, you could submit that if it's being requested by email. Let's say you went to job fair, or if you went to the company directly and you're giving it to them by hand, then you could have that. However, if you're uploading it on their website, they're most likely using the applicant tracking system. So certain things might not be readable. Okay. So one thing we found out was that you know how people use header and footers? That's where they might include their contact information at a header. It won't see anything in the heading, so you should put it in the body of the text. You see, one thing too, you might not want to use. I wouldn't use photos. I wouldn't keep it plain and simple. I wouldn't use any like tables. Um, you know that might be hidden in the background. Oh, one important thing: a lot of students nowadays use Google Docs. Okay, so apparently when you download it from Google Docs, a lot of things come out differently. And so what we would recommend is just to put everything onto a Word document, okay, a plain Word document, and kind of format everything there manually. Okay. Uh, and so another issue I want to bring up is a lot of people like using resume templates. A lot of templates might have not been developed with the applicant tracking system in mind. So you can look at a template as an example and kind of manually mimic the format if you wanted to, but I would not use a template, or I wouldn't recommend it. But it's good to, again, reference templates. They're really good examples. All right, cool. So there you have it. So there's just a few things. Now we're going to go into cover letter writing. So since we only have like 14 minutes left, I'm going to hold off on any more questions in the resume for now. I am going to stick around after to answer more questions. So just write it down if you have a question. But let's get through cover letter writing just in case some people have to leave right at one. Okay. All right. So cover letters. Um, Pretty much the employers are going to read a cover letter first. And if you write a really effective cover letter, it kind of introduces your resume. It'll encourage employers to pay more attention to your resume if everything's written really well. And one thing I will say is that cover letters are typically easier to write than a resume. If you notice, resumes formatted a specific way, action, verb, show versus tell, right? Whereas a cover letter, you're more familiar with this kind of writing style. It's like a paper. You have your introduction paragraph, you got your body middle paragraph, you got your conclusion or last paragraph. Okay, so we're gonna go over each of those paragraphs so you know what to include, and we're gonna go through an example. But other than that, typically you'll start out with your header, which is just your contact information. And again, I wouldn't have this in the header. It's just your contact information at the top. I personally like to have the same like heading as my resume. That way it's consistent formatting, but you don't have to. You could change it up if you want to. Okay. And then underneath that, you're typically gonna have the date of when you're submitting your letter. Okay, so whatever date you're submitting it. And then you're gonna have the employer's information. If you have the name of the employer, the job title, you could include that. If you don't have it, that's fine, leave it off. But you will have at least the company name along with the city and the company's address pretty much. Okay. Um, then you have dear, Matthew Gonzalez, or you could put dear hiring manager if you don't have their name, and so forth. And if you don't know what to address them as, Mr., Miss, Mrs., if you to play it safe, I recommend just putting their full name, first and last name. Again, like dear Matthew Gonzalez, colon. Oh yeah, which brings me to another point. Use the colon, not a comma. A lot of people make the mistake of putting a comma after the greeting. Okay. So it should be a colon. All right. And then you can have your body paragraphs, which we're going to go in detail in the next few slides. But real quick, you need a signature line in the bottom. Sincerely, Anita Jobs. I'm not sure if anyone caught on to Anita Jobs. It's like I need a job. Sorry, the counselors came up with it. It's funny, but yeah. So let's go ahead and move forward. With that said, let's go over the paragraphs. Okay, so for your introduction paragraph, it's really simple. You need to mention the name of the position, how you found out about the opening. It's really important to mention how you found out, whether it was recommended to you by someone, whether it was advertised on their website or advertised on CareerLink or Indeed. The reason why that's important is because a lot of employers, they invest a lot of money for recruiting, to recruit on college campuses or just anywhere, and so it's important for them to find out what's working for them. Okay. The next big piece, and this is the most important one, is you want to show a cultural fit. You want to show them a connection between you and them. Okay. And I usually like to say attack the core. What do I mean by that? Every company has a core. They have a mission statement. So if you look at their about me section, it's going to specifically state what they stand for. And you want to make a connection with that and say, like, hey, I also stand for that, and so forth. All right, so the example we're going to go over is when I applied to become a peer advisor at the Career Development Center. Okay, so just so you know. So I would put here, dear Gina Flores, I'm writing this letter to express my interest in the GPA position at CSULB's Career Development Center. Wayne Takunaga suggested that I apply for the opening. And this is where I make the cultural fit. I researched what they stood for, and I didn't copy and paste. I literally reworded it and put things together. So I put the CDC holds effective practices and resources to promote career development of students while exemplifying ideals and services which demonstrates collaboration, excellence, integrity, and inclusion. Okay, that's literally what they stand for. And I just kind of awarded it in my own way. And then I make a connection by stating, I would very much like to become part of your team, since I too am determined to evoke impactful change in the career development of students. Okay, you see that? So it's pretty simple, just three basic components. Position you're applying for, how you found out, and make a connection. Show them you've done your research. Okay. Who knows? Maybe it's a population that they're serving, and maybe there's innovative practices that stood out to you for that population. Or maybe it's their reputation. Maybe they're ranked within the top five across the whole that specific industry for a specific reason, and you want to further contribute to their success by being part of their team. You see, and so there's many things you could approach the cultural fit. Okay. All right, the body. So this is kind of where the meat is. All right. This is the marketing piece. This is where you want to highlight 2 to 3 qualifications that are most important, and you want to give a solid example of each. All right. So for this, um, yeah. So for this, let me show you what I did. Let me see. So I believe that my career interest and experience is well suited for this position. I'm currently pursuing, let me move sorry, the chat is blocking my screen. Give me one moment. So let me start that sentence again. I'm currently pursuing my Bachelor's of Arts in Psychology at CSULB, and am enthusiastic about helping students achieve their educational, personal, and career goals. So that kind of hits on the career interest piece. Now we got to back up the experience piece. As required, I've held student-oriented positions that are related to this position. Having had the opportunity to work as a psychology peer advisor, I've developed strong advising and interpersonal skills. Now I had to back up the 2 skills, advising and interpersonal, right? So I put here, in which I work with students individually, okay, which hits on interpersonal, to help them decide what classes to take and to address concerns they may have about major requirements, which now hits on advising. Okay, so I'm gonna bring in another experience I had. And so I put, having worked as a peer mentor for at-risk student athletes, I've developed strong facilitation skills in which I engage students in discussions about academic progress while helping them to improve their academic performance. All right, so facilitation skills is kicks in when I talk about engaging in discussions. Okay, so there you have it. Um, cool. All right. And I see the chat. Thanks for joining. Someone, I know you have to go. But yeah, so there you have it. That's the body. The conclusion is the most simplest one. You just have to refer the reader to your enclosed resume, re-express your interests, request an interview in a really polite and nice way, and then close by including your phone number and email. Okay, so I've enclosed my resume for your review and consideration. I hope that my interest in student development and experience as a peer advisor and mentor conveys to you that I can make a valuable contribution to your team. I would be pleased to meet with you in a personal interview. I can be contacted at phone number and email. Thank you for your time and consideration. Sincerely, I need the jobs. All right, cool. So there you have it. Let me see everything in time. Oh, cool. All right, cool. So let me go ahead and real quick drop in if you want to have your resume cover letter review. If you have a quick question, you all you have to do is go through CareerLink, which right now you could access through your single sign-on. Once you're alumni, you have to go through our alumni page to access it. And all you have to do in CareerLink is click on resources. And then right here where it says Career Development Center, it'll say click here for virtual drop-in advising. Okay. Monday to Friday, 12 to 3. Okay. And so it's still gonna be 12 to 3 for the summer. So yeah, so this kind of walks you through the process we talked about. If ever you want to make an appointment with a career counselor, all you have to do is go through your single sign-on, go click on Beach Connect Chicklet and click on get assistance. And then you can kind of choose the topic and follow the prompt. Um, and yeah, we're all generalists. So there's about a few of us counselors. So you can meet with anyone based on what's available to you. And so take advantage of us. And then if you want to attend more webinars or workshops, again, Careerly is kind of the hub for everything. So you could go there to access drop-in. You could go there to attend an event that we have, to look for jobs, so forth. Okay. But yeah, in the event tab, you just have to go to the workshop area and kind of find a workshop that you'd like to attend. Okay. Um, all right, cool. So I'm gonna stop the recording at this point. Give me one moment. So I'll stop the recording. I'm gonna stick around to answer questions. But for everyone tuning in on this on YouTube, thank you for watching. And yeah, enjoy our other videos. So I'm gonna stop now. Stop. Okay. Yes.